Hello everyone, David Klecker here. I'm the author of AutoHARP3. I'm here to show you how you can install AutoHARP3 and how to get things set up on the application. So to install, you will have the AutoHARP3 Harp Fantasy EXE program that you downloaded from drive-thru RGB. It should look something similar to this. You may have other EXEs, but this is the very first one that you should be installing if you have a collection of my AutoHARP3 packages. So there's others like Martial Arts College of Magic. There's even Architect. This is the first one that you should be installing, AutoHARP3 Harp Fantasy install.exe. So let's go ahead and double click that. It will open up eventually a window that asks for permission to be able to use the application. And then it should open up a wizard that allows us to go through the setup procedure. So read the license agreement at your leisure. This is the components that are installing. So I'm installing the application of AutoHARP itself, and I'm installing the Harp Fantasy database set. So I'm going to click on Next for that. This is where I'm going to install it. So I'm going to be installing it on my C drive in the folder AutoHARP3 and in another folder called Harp Fantasy. I'm storing it that way because eventually I anticipate installing Harp Sci-Fi, and I want them both to be under the package AutoHARP3, and I want them both to be in their own separate folders. So I'm going to set it up like that. You can have your destination folder any place you want, but just remember where you have it. So when you do install other applications like Martial Law or College of Magics, you will be installing it in this exact same place under C drive, and then whatever you have, or even your D drive, whatever you have here, that's where you're going to be installing the rest. So let's go ahead and click on Install. And this should not take very long. I think it takes roughly around 30 seconds to install. Most of the time what you're going to be seeing is an installation of quite a few images. A lot of those images are coming from Bestiary, and they're also coming from my documentation, and they're also coming from just other things like the culture, races, all of the pictures that you will see as you're using the application. So it is done. You will see that when this has been completed, an icon or a shortcut will show up on your desktop that will be pointing to a program called AutoHARP3 Harp Fantasy. This is all located under my C drive, as I said. So if I go to under my C drive, go to AutoHARP3 Harp Fantasy, this is my entire package. This is the package for AutoHARP3. This shortcut points exactly to this EXE right here. If you want to go through this, you can. There's really nothing special to see here. The only places that would be somewhat of interest to you would be under Resources and Bin, where I have my data folder. This data folder contains all of the databases that have been installed. And this is just the one set of databases, the Harp Fantasy databases. And as you can see, they're all XML. You can open these up and you can edit them, but I would be very, very careful to edit any XML database. The format of the XML is very specific. My application requires that these XML files be in a very precise format. So if you are going to add or delete anything, make sure you're not, taking like the wall that holds up the house. So you might break the program if you were to alter any of these without really knowing and understanding how they work. When we get to Architect, it's going to be very different. I will show you that you can in fact update these, but you can update them in the program itself, and it makes things a lot easier. The program will therefore then make the XML file for you, so you don't have to worry about formatting or anything like that. The other things that are also located in data is the preferences XML, which you can entirely edit when you're in AutoHARP3. In fact, let's just go ahead and open up AutoHARP3 to show you what she looks like when you have installed it. There it is. So we have 4 options of which we can choose: create a new character, open a character or a monster, open a campaign, or open a combat. And I will be making tutorials that cover each one of those. You also have the menu bar up here for file, where you can choose any of these options that you see here. Same thing for tools, and I will go through all of this eventually under some tutorials. and then help. The one thing that I would like to cover right off the bat, though, is preferences. I just want you to make sure that you can understand that there are some changes that you can make right now to the program. Right now, your relative path to the database is exactly this, unless you decide to move it for reasons. If you do, then it's going to be relative to that location that I was showing to you before when we were talking about the folder structure. This is the location of the data folder. It's located under C, AutoHARP3, HARP Fantasy Resources bin. If you move it, you're going to need to put in here the relative position from this folder point to where you moved it. All right, so the main rule book is HARP Fantasy. If I make Sirion at some point, that will also be a main rule book that we can include in here, but right now it's just one main rule book, so it should be easy. The theme can be changed. There are two themes currently right now, light and dark. So as you can see, you can always choose to use this under a dark theme. The dark theme is still somewhat experimental when it comes to certain things, so if you do find something that seems out of place on the dark theme, please let me know so that I can go ahead and fix that. Go ahead and just change back to light. It's a little easier to see and record. When it comes to the statistical generation method, this is something that you will see when you make a new character sheet. And this can be the default, so you don't have to worry about setting this every single time. It's one of the three options that show up in the book, so you pick the one that you think you're going to be using the most, and then that can be your default, and that will be the one that's selected when you create a new character. The select database for criticals, this gets updated every single time you make an installation because there's a possibility that you might have a critical table that is a part of your new installation. There's only two books right now that have critical tables, HARP Fantasy and Martial Law. And in version 303, I have made a small adjustment to the HARP Fantasy data critical tables where I have taken the external poison and I have opted to remove that in favor of the acid critical table that comes from Martial Law. And I have used the location of chest and back as the critical table for my choice for HARP Fantasy. If you don't like that, you can always go into Architect and you can put in the critical tables for external poison. It's entirely up to you. I made that change explicitly for one of the books, and I believe one of those books was for blood magic. It had to do with the acid bolt. The acid bolt uses a external poison, but that if you are using the Martial Law critical table, then that won't work for Martial Law critical table. There's no critical table called external poison in Martial Law. So what I've done is I've taken acid and I've made it a part of the HARP Fantasy database table. So now both Martial Law and HARP Fantasy use the same critical tables. So any table that you pick in HARP Fantasy should work fine with Martial Law. And any new critical tables that you make for Martial Law, you should remember to also add them to the HARP Fantasy so that at least there is a one-to-one relationship between the two. Monsters, again, you can choose a book for monsters. Again, there is a selection to this. HARP Fantasy has its own collection of monsters, as does Bestiary. And if you decide to make your own book, customized book, which I can show you how to do in Architect, then you can take that information and maybe combine them both. Maybe have a Bestiary that also has some of the information from HARP Fantasy, or even your own customized information from other sources that obviously you can use in AutoHARP. This will show you all of the books that you have installed, and when you make your changes, when it's all said and done, and you agree with what you see here for your preferences, you can go ahead and click on Save Changes and then Close, and you're going to go right back to where you were. So that's either the splash page that you see here, a new character sheet, or a character sheet that you have opened, or a monster sheet that you have opened, or even combat if you need to go into preferences and make a quick change. Let's say you're going to preferences to just change it to dark theme. Well, then it's going to go right back to where you were left off. Help is I'm going to show you some tutorials that are written down. This might not be 100% updated, but I will eventually get to updating this 100% as I continue to put in the changes for 303. That as of my recording right now, I'm on version 303. The Getting Started just tells you for users that were on the old version of AutoHARP 2, what happens with AutoHARP 3, and where can you begin getting started with AutoHARP 3 and getting used to the program, the new changes, because AutoHARP 3 is a complete rewrite, from AutoHARP2. It is now an HTML CSS application. In fact, even more so, it is a Blazor Electron application, if you kind of understand what that means. Basically, to be more generic, it is an ASP.NET application, very much a Microsoft type of application. What's new? This will include all of the updates and fixes for 3.03, including any other new things that you might want to know about when you're coming from AutoHARP 2 to AutoHARP 3. So you can have that in there as well. But I think the most important thing here is the report bug. If you do find a bug, this is how I would like you to report it. You can report it by using the link above that you see there. That'll take you straight into SourceForge, and you can go ahead and create a ticket. Or you can just email me. And most of the time, I'm going to respond quicker for the email than I am going to for the SourceForge. And a lot of that has simply to do with the fact that SourceForge might not email me if you report the bug. I might have to go in there and see that a bug was reported. But with AutoHARP3 help@gmail.com, I get these indicators that say that there is an email waiting for me there, because I check that pretty frequently. If you do find a bug, so for example, you'll get a yellow ribbon that appears on the bottom of your screen that says you might need to reload your application. That basically means that the application has crashed. What you can do for me that'll really help me find out what happened with your application and where the bug might be is I'd love you to use the event viewer. And I have a whole series of screenshots here that shows you how to use it. It's not for the faint of heart, but I can walk you through what you need to do so that you can take a screenshot of it, and then you can send that to me as a part of your bug report. So you're going to basically search for Event Viewer down here on the search bar. It'll bring up the Event Viewer app. You click on that, and it will open up this Event Viewer. And as you can see, again, it is not for the faint of heart. Definitely an IT-looking type application, but I will walk you through it. What you're going to do is you're going to look for this folder on the left-hand side that says Window Logs. That should automatically appear when you open this thing up. This whole window here should appear where you can click on Windows Logs, and then you should be able to click on Application. This window will appear right here. This is the most important window because this is where you're going to select the bug. What's going to happen is when a program crashes, a warning comes up, something like this, and it's going to be a .NET runtime warning. It's not an error for reasons that I can't explain. It comes up as a warning. So what you're going to do is you're going to click on that warning, and you're going to find that this will show up, and it tells me exactly the line of which it crashed. That warning might not be at the top. It depends on the length of time that you took to find the bug, or a bug appeared in AutoHARP, and the amount of time between that bug appearing and you opening up the event viewer. If you opened up the event viewer immediately, like within a minute, then this warning, this bug should be near the top. But if it took you like a half an hour or so before you opened this up, then it's going to be buried, and it's probably not going to be easy to find. And so the easiest thing to do would probably be to see if you can replicate the bug again and get that warning to show up again, and now it's going to show up near the top of the event viewer. This is exactly what I can use to fix this bug quickly, because it gives me a line, it gives me the exact problem that's happening instead of oh, your program crashed, please reload. That doesn't really tell me much. I mean, you can give me the description of what you did, but it doesn't really tell me exactly what happened in the program, and this will. So this will be very helpful to me as a bug. All right, so that concludes going over the beginning stuff of AutoHARP 3, getting it installed, checking preferences, and finding out what's new with each release, and of course, how to report a bug when when a bug encounters. Hopefully no bugs ever come up, but it is a program. Bugs can happen. These things happen. So I will continue to create tutorials for each aspect of this application. And until then, thank you so much for purchasing AutoHARP 3, and happy gaming.